Robert De Niro, Taxi Driver, 1976. Robert De Niro emerged as the quiet storm of American acting, a performer whose intensity felt controlled, deliberate, and dangerous. Audiences recognized him as the face of raw truth on screen, someone who never played characters but absorbed them. Before his rise, he moved through small New York films, waiting for the role that would shatter expectations. Directors saw potential but hesitated. His quiet nature made him easy to underestimate. Yet within that silence lived one of cinema's sharpest instincts. The moment that changed everything arrived when he stepped into the world of Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. This wasn't just another role in a gritty film. It was a descent into isolation at a moment when Hollywood still avoided certain psychological depths. The studio feared it would be too dark, too internal, too unstable for audiences. De Niro made it his challenge. He drove real taxi shifts through New York at night, absorbing the city's loneliness. He studied speech rhythms, physical tics, and emotional withdrawal until Travis felt like a living presence inside him. This wasn't transformation for attention. It was a commitment to truth. Behind the scenes, one moment defined his devotion. The legendary mirror monologue, "You talking to me?" was completely improvised. Scorsese gave him the freedom to explore the scene, and De Niro created one of cinema's most quoted moments on the spot. Spoken in a dim room, with no witness except the character's own fractured mind. The performance earned him an Oscar nomination and reshaped method acting standard. It proved an actor could explore isolation without turning it into spectacle. His work deepened the psychological realism of modern cinema and established him as one of Hollywood's most fearless performers. Al Pacino, The Godfather, 1972. Al Pacino entered American film with a presence that felt both fragile and explosive. Audiences saw a man who could whisper and still command the room. Directors saw an energy that was volatile, electric, and impossible to ignore. Before his breakout, he was an unknown stage actor grinding through auditions. Hollywood didn't view him as leading man material. He was considered too small, too soft-spoken, too unconventional in appearance. Yet those traits would become his greatest weapon. Everything shifted when he was cast as Michael Corleone in The Godfather. The studio resisted the decision. They wanted a more famous face: Robert Redford, Warren Beatty, anyone but this unknown. Producers questioned whether Pacino could carry a transformation so complex. But the role demanded subtlety, patience, and slow-burning intensity, qualities Pacino had in abundance. What made the role remarkable was the internal transformation. Michael moves from reluctant outsider to calculated leader. Pacino charted that shift with microscopic precision. He avoided dramatic gestures. Instead, he let silence, posture, and gaze do the work. Behind the scenes, one moment stands out. During the restaurant scene where Michael kills Sollozzo and Kluski, the production faced constant interruptions and technical delays. Pacino waited for hours in character, maintaining the same restrained tension. The moment the cameras rolled, he delivered the quiet storm the scene needed. His signature moment arrived when Michael closes the door on Kay at the end of the film. That single action, calm, steady, final, announced the birth of a new kind of cinematic villain. No words needed. Just the slow closing of a door on innocence. The impact was immediate. Pacino earned his first Oscar nomination and became the face of controlled power. He redefined the arc of corruption on screen and set a new standard for character transformation. Meryl Streep, Sophie's Choice, 1982. Meryl Streep entered Hollywood with a reputation for technical mastery and emotional intelligence. People spoke of her ability to shift accents, characters, and emotional states with impossible ease. She felt like a performer shaped by every corner of the world. Before her major rise, she worked steadily in theater, often overlooked for flashier performers. She wasn't marketed as glamorous or sensational. Instead, she relied on craft. Her early film roles were often supporting parts where she elevated every scene without dominating it. The turning point came with Sophie's Choice, a role that demanded complete emotional exposure. A character defined by trauma, survival, and a silence heavier than dialogue. Sophie Zawistowski, a Polish Holocaust survivor haunted by an impossible decision. Hollywood questioned whether audiences were ready for something so raw. Streep transformed through rigorous preparation. She learned Polish and German from scratch. She examined historical records, testimonies, and personal accounts of concentration camp survivors. She refused shortcuts. Every sound, movement, and expression belonged to the character's lived reality. Behind the scenes, one moment became legend. During filming of the flashback scene at Auschwitz, the emotional weight overwhelmed the set. Streep stayed in character, offering calm to the young actors playing her children while carrying the story's unbearable burden on her shoulders. Her signature moment arrived with the choice itself, a decision made under unbearable pressure. A Nazi officer forces Sophie to choose which of her two children will live. The scene is so emotionally precise that it changed how people understood acting itself. No exaggerated gestures. No theatrical display. Only truth, devastation, and the fracturing of a human soul. The performance earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress and solidified her place among Hollywood's greatest. It became the benchmark for emotional transformation and set the standard for realism in dramatic acting. Leonardo DiCaprio, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, 1993. Leonardo DiCaprio entered Hollywood as the prodigy, a young actor capable of outshining seasoned performers. Audiences noticed his intensity early, but studios still saw him as a youthful face suited only for supporting roles. Before his breakout, DiCaprio worked through small TV parts and indie films, proving range far beyond his age. Directors recognized a precision and emotional clarity uncommon in young performers. But Hollywood hesitated to give him complex leads. That changed when he took on the role of Arnie Grape in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, a teenage boy with developmental disabilities, living in a small Iowa town. The character demanded emotional fearlessness and absolute authenticity at a moment when young male roles rarely explored such vulnerability. The transformation was immediate. DiCaprio spent time with children and young adults with disabilities, observing their mannerisms, speech patterns, and emotional expressions. He used observational study, physical tension, and deep emotional recall to capture every nuance. This wasn't performance. It was immersion so complete that crew members sometimes forgot he was acting. Behind the scenes, one moment revealed his dedication. DiCaprio stayed in character between takes, maintaining Arnie's physicality and speech patterns even during breaks. Johnny Depp, his co-star, later said he had trouble separating Leo from Arnie during filming. The transformation was that complete. His signature moment came during Arnie's emotional breakdown after his mother's death, a scene that felt almost too real. DiCaprio, only 19 years old, delivered a performance that carried the weight usually reserved for veterans. The performance earned him his first Oscar nomination and established him as a serious actor long before global superstardom arrived with Titanic. It showed Hollywood that authenticity mattered more than age or reputation. Denzel Washington, Training Day, 2001. Denzel Washington entered Hollywood with quiet authority. His presence felt grounded, composed, and commanding. Audiences sensed honesty in every role he touched. Directors trusted his precision and emotional clarity. Before his breakthrough, he built a reputation through steady work in television and theater. He wasn't introduced as a star but earned respect through consistency. Hollywood needed artists like him, but it wasn't ready for a black leading man capable of carrying prestige dramas and thrillers with equal power. The moment that shifted everything came with Training Day. Washington played Detective Alonzo Harris, a corrupt narcotics officer who was the opposite of every heroic character he'd portrayed before. The role required depth without melodrama, charisma without redemption, strength twisted into manipulation. Washington approached the transformation with discipline. He studied real lapped officers working undercover in dangerous neighborhoods. He drilled physical routines and refined emotional choices until the performance felt lived rather than acted. His delivery stayed sharp, controlled, and anchored in a dangerous truth. Behind the scenes, one defining moment emerged. During the famous King Kong Ain't Got Nothing on Me scene, Washington adjusted the emotional tone on the spot when he sensed the character needed raw, unhinged energy. That improvised intensity gave the film its most explosive moment. His signature moment came with a single line delivered with unwavering, terrifying conviction. King Kong ain't got shit on me. Delivered during a street confrontation. The line became iconic because Washington grounded it in truth rather than theatrics, the truth of a man who'd lost himself completely. The performance earned Washington the Academy Award for Best Actor, his second Oscar, and expanded the possibilities for black actors in Hollywood. It became a foundational example of controlled power corrupted, proving a leading man could play both hero and villain with equal mastery. Scarlett Johansson, Lost in Translation, 2003. Scarlett Johansson arrived in Hollywood carrying a calm intensity. Her voice, presence, and stillness made her stand out in ways that defied typical young actor archetypes. Before her rise to the global spotlight, she appeared in independent films that valued sensitivity over spectacle. She wasn't pushed as a blockbuster figure. Instead, she developed a reputation for emotional honesty and subtle acting choices. Her major shift came with Lost in Translation, directed by Sofia Coppola. Johansson played Charlotte, a young woman adrift in Tokyo, navigating loneliness and existential uncertainty. The role was built around silence, observation, and internal conflict. The character required her to communicate without relying on dialogue. Hollywood doubted whether a performer only 18 years old could anchor a film through restraint alone. Johansson embraced the challenge. She studied the emotional rhythms of isolation and used body language as the primary storytelling tool. Every glance, pause, and subtle shift carried meaning. Her chemistry with Bill Murray created one of cinema's most understated and powerful connections. Behind the scenes, the key moment came during street shot sequences filmed with real pedestrians who had no idea they were part of a movie. Johansson remained fully in character, adjusting in real time to unpredictable interactions while maintaining emotional truth. The scenes captured genuine loneliness in a foreign city. Her signature moment arrived in the final scene, a whispered goodbye between Charlotte and Bob that the audience never hears. A single expression conveyed more than dialogue ever could. The ambiguity, the connection, the bittersweet acceptance, all visible in her face. The role earned Johansson a BAFTA award and transformed her into a performer known for both depth and versatility. It set the stage for her future in both independent cinema and major franchises like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Tom Hanks, Philadelphia, 1993. Tom Hanks emerged as Hollywood's everyman. Audiences trusted him instantly. His warmth, sincerity, and grounded presence made him relatable in a way few actors achieve. He wasn't introduced as a dramatic heavyweight. Early roles leaned on light comedy and approachable charm, shaping him as the friendly face of American cinema. Before his defining transformation, he was considered reliable but not extraordinary. Studios liked him, but awards bodies rarely mentioned his name. He was the actor people enjoyed but didn't yet revere. That perception changed the moment he chose Philadelphia, a role that demanded courage, emotional transparency, and physical sacrifice. Hanks played Andrew Beckett, a lawyer fired from his firm after they discover he has AIDS. The role required him to portray illness, isolation, and psychological decline with dignity during a time when the AIDS crisis was still heavily stigmatized. Hollywood questioned whether an actor known for charm could carry such weight. The risk was enormous. But Hanks saw the responsibility, the cultural importance, and the artistic challenge. He committed completely. He lost over 30 pounds, changed his physical posture, and worked closely with medical professionals and people living with AIDS to understand the emotional journey. He didn't rely on melodrama. He focused on humanity, on the quiet moments of fear, acceptance, and grace. Behind the scenes, one moment revealed the depth of his commitment. During the opera scene, where Andrew listens to Maria Callas while explaining the beauty of the aria, Hanks insisted on doing multiple takes despite exhaustion because he wanted every emotional detail to feel lived rather than acted. The crew stayed silent after the final take, recognizing they had captured something rare. His signature moment arrived during that very scene, as tears streamed down his face while he describes the music. His voice, stripped of all strength yet full of truth, delivered one of cinema's most powerful expressions of humanity facing mortality. The role reshaped how Hollywood viewed him. Hanks earned his first Academy Award for Best Actor, moving from likable performer to serious dramatic force. The film helped humanize the AIDS crisis and solidified Hanks's legacy as one of America's most trusted actors.